Okay, so we've got a stack of info here from RoleCatcher about electrical engineering.
Okay.
And clearly this is a career path that you're curious about. And
Yeah.
honestly, who wouldn't be?
Right.
It's one of those fields that's kind of hidden in plain sight. We all benefit from it every day.
Right.
But most
Mhm.
of us probably don't think twice about what an electrical engineer actually does.
Yeah.
So let's switch that light bulb on, shall we?
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
And you're right. Most people probably don't realize just how far-reaching electrical engineering is.
Yeah.
It's not just about fixing your toaster,
Right.
although I'm sure some EEs out there are great at that too.
Yeah.
These RoleCatcher excerpts call them innovation drivers,
Okay.
which is a fancy way of saying they're the ones making our electric world go round.
Yeah.
They're the minds behind the entire system, from that power grid keeping our cities humming right down to the circuits in your smartphone that let you scroll through this podcast.
Whoa.
Yeah.
I never thought about it like that. Right.
Same principles are at work in both of those things. That's wild.
Totally.
So what would you say is at the heart of what an electrical engineer actually does, like their core mission?
RoleCatcher puts it as designing and implementing electrical systems for a connected world.
Okay.
And I think that connected world part is key.
Okay.
It's not just about making things work individually. It's about ensuring they all work together seamlessly and efficiently.
Yeah.
Think about it. The energy generated at a massive power station hundreds of miles away somehow ends up powering the lamp on your nightstand.
Yeah.
That's some serious electrical wizardry.
Seriously.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're like the architects of this invisible, the essential network we all rely on.
Yeah.
It sounds like a field that requires both incredible precision, those tiny circuits you mentioned,
Yeah.
and the ability to think really big picture at the same time.
Exactly. You got to be meticulous and detail-oriented, no doubt.
But then you also need that ability to zoom out and see how all those tiny details fit into a larger system.
Yeah.
It's a unique blend of skills for sure.
Wow.
I imagine there's never a dull moment.
Okay, so you've totally piqued my curiosity. What does a typical day actually look like for an electrical engineer?
Yeah.
What are they doing when they're not busy ensuring efficient energy transmission, as RoleCatcher so eloquently puts it?
Well, according to RoleCatcher, it's a mix of hands-on and analytical work.
Okay.
You might find yourself huddled with a team,
Yeah.
debating the best way to optimize a power grid.
Okay.
And then the next day, you're on-site at a construction project, making sure the electrical systems are being installed correctly.
Wow.
Or you could be in a lab, meticulously testing circuit boards for the next generation of smartphones, just like you mentioned earlier.
So it's not all just sitting at a desk staring at circuit diagrams.
Not at all.
Okay.
Although there's a fair bit of that too.
Right.
RoleCatcher actually mentions poring over circuit diagrams as a key task. But even that can be pretty exciting when you think about it.
Yeah.
You're basically mapping out the nervous system of a complex electrical system,
Yeah.
figuring out how to make it all work in perfect harmony.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And speaking of careers, how does one climb the electrical engineering ladder?
Right.
Do you start out wiring light fixtures
Yeah.
and then work your way up to designing power grids?
Huh. Not quite, though every EE probably has a good light fixture story or two.
Right.
But you're right to think about career progression.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher highlights how you might start as a junior engineer,
Okay.
maybe assisting on a big project to design a new kind of solar panel.
Okay.
You're gaining experience learning from the more senior engineers,
Right.
but as you prove yourself, the responsibilities grow.
Yeah.
Before you know it, you could be leading those solar panel design projects,
Wow.
maybe even mentoring a new generation of E's.
So it's a career path with built-in growth. You start by learning the ropes, and then you get to hold the reins yourself.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It is.
But it
Oh,
sounds
no.
like the learning never really stops in this field, right?
You hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm.
Electrical engineering is definitely not a learn it and forget it kind of field.
Right.
Technology is constantly evolving,
Yeah.
and the demand for more efficient, more powerful, more sustainable solutions, it just keeps growing.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher actually has a whole section on industry trends,
Okay.
and it's pretty clear that electrical engineers are going to be at the forefront of some really exciting
Yeah.
and important changes in the years to come.
Okay, spill the beans. What kind of industry trends are we talking about here?
Sure.
I'm guessing renewable energy has to be a big one.
You know it.
Yeah.
RoleCatcher specifically calls out the growing demand for energy-efficient systems and the rise of renewable energy sources like solar and wind.
Right.
They say this shift is going to require a new generation of engineers who can design and develop innovative solutions.
Yeah.
Imagine being the one to come up with a breakthrough in solar panel design that makes them twice as efficient. You'd be changing the world.
Talk about a dream job. Design the tech that powers our future.
Right.
But let's get real for a second.
Okay.
What about someone listening who's thinking, this sounds amazing, but do I have what it takes?
Yeah.
What are those must-have skills and qualifications for aspiring electrical engineers?
Well, if you're someone who loves math and physics, not just getting good grades, but really getting into the nitty-gritty of how things work, then you're off to a great start.
Okay.
RoleCatcher highlights these subjects as the foundation.
Right.
And they make a great point. It's not just about memorizing equations, math and physics. They're like the language you use to understand how electricity behaves.
Oh, okay.
You're basically learning to think like an electron.
Okay, I love that. Thinking like an electron, that's a skill you can't just pick up from a textbook.
Right.
So it's about having that natural curiosity, that desire to dig deeper into how things work at their most fundamental level.
Yeah.
But what about the practical side of things? Is it all just theory and equations, or is there a lot of hands-on problem solving involved in electrical engineering?
Oh, there's a ton of problem solving. RoleCatcher actually gives a great example.
Okay.
Imagine designing a complex circuit board and then realizing halfway through that a key component isn't going to work.
Oh.
Maybe it's too big, or it
Yeah.
generates too much heat, or it's just not compatible with the other components.
Right.
That's where your critical thinking and problem-solving skills really come into play.
Yeah.
You have to figure out a workaround,
Yeah.
maybe redesign a part of the system, all while staying within the project constraints and deadlines.
So it's like you're this master puzzle solver, but instead of cardboard pieces, you're working with circuits and resistors and whatever else those electrical things are called.
Exactly. And you can't just Google the answer or look it up in the back of the textbook.
Right.
It's about thinking creatively,
Yeah.
collaborating with your team, and maybe even going back to the drawing board a few times before you find the perfect solution.
That sounds incredibly challenging, but also incredibly rewarding when you finally crack the code.
It is.
Okay, so let's say someone's got the math and physics down.
Uh-huh.
They're a natural problem solver.
Yeah.
They're even starting to think like an electron in their spare time. What else can they do to prepare for a career in electrical engineering? Does RoleCatcher have any advice about getting that hands-on experience?
They absolutely do. They're big proponents of seeking out internships, co-op programs.
Okay.
Really anything that lets you apply your knowledge in a real-world setting.
Yeah.
It's one thing to ace your circuits class. It's another to actually build a working circuit from scratch.
There's nothing quite like that aha moment when something you built yourself actually works the way it's supposed to.
Right.
I bet those kinds of experiences look great on a resume too, right?
You bet. And it's not just about having a line item on your resume.
Right.
It's about developing those practical skills.
Yeah.
Learning to work on a team, understanding how theoretical concepts translate into real-world applications.
Right.
Plus, those internships can often turn into job offers down the line.
So internships, check.
Right.
Building a solid foundation in math and physics, check. Embracing the challenge of solving complex problems, check.
Yes.
What else does RoleCatcher highlight as being important for breaking into the field of electrical engineering?
Well, they talk about the importance of networking, and I know that word can sometimes make people cringe, but hear me out because they have a really good point.
Oh, I'm all ears. Networking is one of those things that can feel really awkward, especially when you're just starting out. Like, what am I supposed to say to these experienced professionals? Hi, I'm a student. Please give me a job.
Right. Nobody wants to feel like they're just schmoozing for favors.
Right.
But the way RoleCatcher talks about it, it's more about building genuine connections and learning from the people who are already out there doing the work you aspire to do.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
So how does one go about building those genuine connections? What does RoleCatcher recommend?
They suggest things like attending industry conferences and events,
Okay.
which can be a great way to hear about the latest advancements and meet people who are working on cutting-edge projects.
Right.
They also talk about joining professional organizations like the Institute of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, IEE,
Okay.
which offers tons of networking opportunities as well as access to journals, publications, and online forums where you can connect with other EEs from around the world.
So it's about putting yourself out there, but not in a pushy way.
Right.
More like, hey, I'm passionate about this field and I'd love to learn from your experience. It's about building relationships, not just collecting business cards.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you never know when those connections might lead to something down the line.
Right.
A piece of advice, a referral, or even a job offer.
It's like that saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know. But in this case, it's probably a good mix of both.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
You need the skills and the knowledge to back it up. But those personal connections can definitely open doors and create opportunities you might not even known existed.
So we've talked about the exciting stuff.
Uh,
Designing the future, solving complex problems, the power of networking.
yeah.
But let's get real for a moment. Like any career, electrical engineering must have its ups and downs.
Sure.
RoleCatcher does mention pros and cons. Right.
They do.
Let's unpack those a bit.
Okay.
They do, and they're refreshingly honest about both sides of the coin.
Okay.
On the plus side, they list high demand for skilled engineers.
You're right.
Which is always good news for job security,
Right.
competitive salaries,
Yeah.
and the chance to be involved in creating things that have a real impact on the world.
Yeah.
But then they don't shy away from the potential downsides either.
Okay, so what are the potential downsides? Long hours hunched over a circuit board, a love-hate relationship with caffeine.
Those might be part of it.
Right.
But on a more serious note,
Yeah.
they talk about the challenges of long hours and tight deadlines,
Yeah.
which are pretty common in any field where you're developing new technologies or working on complex projects.
Right.
They also emphasize that electrical engineering is a field that requires constant learning and adaptation.
That makes sense. With technology evolving so rapidly, you've got to be willing to constantly update your skills and knowledge.
Exactly. They make it clear that a successful electrical engineer is someone who embraces lifelong learning and isn't afraid to dive into new and unfamiliar territory.
It's that adaptability and that drive to keep learning those seem to be the hallmarks of a truly successful electrical engineer.
Absolutely.
But for those who are ready to embrace the challenge, who are excited by the possibilities,
Yeah,
what's the best way to break into this electrifying field?
right.
Does RoleCatcher have any final words of wisdom for aspiring E's?
They do. And it's not just the usual polish your resume advice, though that's important too, of course.
Right.
They actually emphasize the importance of building a strong portfolio, especially for those just starting out. Think of it as a way to show, not just tell, potential employers what you're capable of.
So not just listing proficient in circuit design on your resume,
Right.
but actually showing them a circuit you designed.
Exactly. Did you build a cool robotics project in your basement?
Yeah.
Design a new type of energy-efficient lighting system for your bedroom?
Right.
Those are the kinds of things that can really make you stand out from the crowd.
It's like showing, not just telling, what makes you tick as an engineer.
Right.
It's that hands-on experience again.
Absolutely. And RoleCatcher also suggests looking for opportunities to participate in design competitions or contribute to open source projects.
Right.
It's a chance to challenge yourself,
Yeah.
collaborate with other passionate EEs,
Right.
and maybe even get your work in front of some big names in the industry.
So build a killer portfolio, get involved in the EE community,
Yeah,
and of course, network, network, network.
for sure.
It sounds like landing that dream job in electrical engineering is a marathon, not a sprint, right?
They use that exact phrase.
Really?
And it's so true.
Yeah.
This isn't a field where you just coast by on talent alone.
Right.
It takes dedication, perseverance, and a genuine passion for the work.
But the rewards seem pretty incredible.
They are.
We're talking about shaping the future of energy, developing life-saving medical devices.
Yeah.
Maybe even designing the electrical systems for missions to Mars.
Exactly. The sky's the limit.
Wow.
It's really about using your skills and knowledge to make a real difference in the world.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the day-to-day realities of being an electrical engineer to the skills needed to succeed.
Right.
And the exciting industry trends on the horizon.
It's been a great conversation.
Thanks for taking this electrifying deep dive with us.
My pleasure.
And for anyone listening who's feeling inspired to explore the world of electrical engineering, we encourage you to keep that spark alive.
Keep that spark alive.
You never know where it might lead you.
Absolutely.